Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, it's Padders here, and you've just tuned in to PaddersReviews. Today I'll be looking at a game called Darwinia. It's the second game made by a company called Introversion Software, made in 2005. They've also made the games Uplink, Multiwinia, and Defcon. This game is a real-time strategy set in a virtual simulation of life, and you have to save the denizens of this world, called Darwinians, from a virus. So now we know what the game is, let's look at the menu and the settings options. There are a lot of settings this time, so it may take a little while to go through. There is the screen options, the graphic options, the sound options, the control options, and the other options. So in the screen options, there is the resolution option, there is also the windowed mode option, and the refresh rate and color depth for the full screen mode. There is also the Z buffer depth, which has the options of 16-bit or 24-bit. Not gonna lie, I don't know what all of these options do, but it is great to see a resolution option and also a windowed mode option. Next is the graphic options, and this has an option to change all of the fidelity of the graphics. This is really great and allows almost everyone to play the game. As a lovely extra piece, the bottom has an FPS counter. This is just great and shows how well the game runs in that detail. After that is the sound options. This is the options for the sound library, the mix frequency, the number of channels, the memory usage, the swap stereo, the hardware 3D, and the real-time effects options. Also, there is a note at the bottom which shows how much memory is being used. Again, really handy, and receives a big thumbs up from me. There is a problem with this menu, as there is no way of making the sounds quieter or louder from within the game, which will be problematic as I will explain later. The control options allows for all rebindable keys, which is great and essential in all PC games. And finally, the other options menu, which has the help systems, the bootloader, the language, the difficulty, the large menus, and the automatic camera options. There are so many options in this game, and it really shows that the developer has gone all out to create a great options menu for the PC user. Next up, I'll look at what's brilliant with this game. The setting of this game is quite original, and with the gameplay shows a type of game which hasn't been seen a lot before or since. This is great and leads to an interesting story. Following the setting, the next part of the game is the level setup and design. The maps are large and can easily steal an hour or two to clear the map and get rid of all of the virus that is on there. The music is great and really adds to the atmosphere when it works. That is something I'll get into in the next section. The intro videos to the game are just great. They allow the player to see the amount of effort that has been made by the developer, and also shows it is clearly something the developers loved. There are several intros, I've counted 7 so far, and it really makes me see the passion and the dedication that's gone into making this game. The maps save on each location when you leave, so when you return, the game is exactly where you left it. This means that if you get stuck on one map, you can go to another map, play some of that, and return to the first map again to complete it. This is great, but sometimes I have found that some of the buildings that you have taken over can go back to being neutral. The array of enemies and upgrades are just great. The enemies are necessary to expand the tactics for the game, with some units only being able to be taken out with a certain tactic. But this doesn't limit the gameplay, it helps expand it by adding to the tactics that you will use. The upgrades are also brilliant. There are a whole bunch of upgrades, I think 4 levels for each unit you have, as well as the program manager. These all take time to upgrade, so unlocking all of them can take a great deal of time. The last good part of the game is the replayability. This game offers 3 major points to enhance the gameplay once the game has been finished. First of all is the ability to play the game in a much higher difficulty. The first time I played through the game is difficulty 1, which is the standard difficulty, but the difficulty goes all the way up to 10 to allow for the best, most difficult game. Second is once you finish the game, there is the map editor. This is a gift almost for completing the game. While I am not a map editor type of guy, I don't find joy in making the maps to play, but it is a great feature for a lot of people to use. And last of all, for the replayability, is the ability to download mods from other users online. This allows you to add campaigns and other missions to the game to expand it longer than the 10 hours that I already spent completing the original campaign. Next is what I found to be lacking with the game. The controls to begin with are slow and clunky, and is really a detriment to the game. However, once a few hours have been done, the controls seem less of an issue, and also that the keys can be rebinded to make the controls easier to use. The next problem that can be quite apparent in the game is the lack of AI telling your troops and other programs how to walk. This is highly irritating because it leads to unnecessary micromanagement on everything. As you can see in the background, it leads to problems where your troops will get stuck on water, or even kill themselves by walking through a barrier which kills them. This leads to only allowing the player to accomplish one thing at a time. The next part of the negatives is the sound effects. This cannot be lowered without lowering the volume of the computer. This leads to deafening sounds, especially when you are destroying parts of the centipede. Listen to this. As you can hear, if you play at a decent volume with headphones on, you'll soon be part of the population that is hard of hearing. The final problem with the game is the way that Darwinians are controlled. I personally have no problem with the method of controlling them indirectly, it is the speed in which they can be moved around the map. This means that using them as offensive force is not viable, as you cannot move them around the map with any great speed. Even if you do want to move them around the map, you have to micromanage them at every single stage. In conclusion, this game is a brilliant game that will easily sap hours of your life, and you will feel happy that you've sunk the time to play the game. The game, while an old game, stands up to and surpasses many games on the market today. While the graphics are not traditionally high in fidelity, their use is paramount to drawing you into the world and caring about the Darwinian inhabitants. The game is well worth the £6 price tag, and to top it all off, the game has a demo, so again it can't really be missed. It is a definite recommendation of purchase from me. If you want to, as well, have a look at the Introversion Complete Pack. All of their games are really interesting and I would recommend at least trying them. With the exception of the first game Uplink, the rest of them all have demos available so you can try before you buy. This has been Padders, you've just listened to PaddersReviews. Next time we'll be looking at the indie game Party of Sin. This is a puzzle platformer which is comparable to Trine. Thank you for listening. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. If you have anything to say, then please leave a comment down below.